You're listening to the Productive Therapist Podcast, the world's greatest and most brilliant resource for busy therapists who'd rather be laying on a beach in Hawaii. Every week we share helpful tips on where to put what, how to do this, that, and the other, and the best way to get your ducks in a row. And now here's your host, licensed therapist, head nerd, and productivity Yoda, Uriah Guilford.
My guest today is Neville Medhora from copywritingcourse.com, and I'm very excited to introduce you to his work. So Neville is someone who figured out in the pre-Google days that you can get a bunch of very targeted people to come to your content, consume your material, and even buy from you. He then applied this to businesses he was a part of, including a rave company, the first financial blog online, Copywriting Course, AppSumo, Pink Java Media, Real Savvy, and The Hustle. He currently advises numerous companies and runs a copywriting company called copywritingcourse.com. And he also gives away his entire marketing swipe file at swipefile.com. Enjoy my interview with Neville Medhora. Neville, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Uriah.
So happy to have you on here. And I'm really stoked to introduce you to hopefully a whole bunch of therapists who are business minded and definitely need the advice and expertise that you have. So this is awesome.
Excellent. I hope I can be of value here. So let me know.
For sure. So I've got a random question for you just to start out with, if that's okay. I know you tinker with a bunch of different musical instruments, drums, guitar, piano, doumbek, other kinds of things. I'm curious, what do you find yourself picking up most often, if anything?
I have a piano in my living room, like a keyboard, like a big full-size keyboard. And then I have a little music corner there, and I pick up the acoustic guitar and the piano the absolute most. I don't play the electric guitar as much, but probably the piano I sit down and play because that's like a more recent instrument I've been playing. Yeah. And you will often find a piano just kind of laying around somewhere. And I've noticed with instruments, the thing that impresses people the absolute most, I'd say, is the piano sometimes. I don't know why.
That's true. Yeah. That's true.
Yeah, like if you pick up a guitar and play, I think people are like, whoa, you can play guitar. But when you sit down at a piano, I think there's something that like people who can't play have played with the piano. Like they push it and they're like, how do you even know what to press? And then I sit down and I can play and they're like, what? Like, how do you do that?
Surprise.
Yeah, so I think the impression factor is piano for sure.
That's so interesting. I was at a friend's house recently and sat down and just played a couple chords on the piano. And they're like, you played the piano? Like it was a big deal. So I think you're right.
Yeah. Yeah. But you know what's even more impressive than that? I've noticed because I played guitar since 8th grade. No one cares that you can play guitar. They care that you can sing.
Yes. Right.
That's what it is. Because every song is literally like 4 chords over and over and over. Any major song is like that. But then if you can also sing on top of it, that just takes it to the absolute next level. And that was only in my late 20s I learned to like sing. I could sing before. I just was too shy.
Well, I watched one of your videos recently where you were playing the guitar and singing a song about copywriting. So I can see the connection there.
It's a huge hit. Yeah, double platinum, you know.
Yeah, totally. Hitting the charts. So I want to talk to you about a couple different things that will help my audience, which is therapists in private practice who are starting or building their private practice, whether solo or group. So the interesting thing about you, well, amongst other things, is that you've had this very super interesting, non-traditional career path where you've self-taught yourself a bunch of different skills and leveraged those into a whole bunch of different entrepreneurial ventures, from like burning CDs and selling them at school to drop shipping rave gear through an e-commerce site, writing for AppSumo, selling your own courses, and a whole bunch of other things, right? So I guess the first question I want to ask you is like, what was the most important skill that you taught yourself that helped you to be successful?
It's funny that you mentioned all those things. I think the easy way to say this is trying experiments, right? So instead of starting a business, which I've seen a lot of people get very emotionally attached to it, it becomes part of your identity. You're like, I'm going to start this business selling XYZ. And then you have to do that. Or if you bring on a partner, you both think you don't want to let each other down. I always viewed it as trying an experiment. Let's just see if this works. Honestly, it's almost like a mental frame where it takes off all the pressure. Right. So if you say, I'm going to start XYZ, it's very official, where you say, I'm going to try this experiment. Just have fun with it. It would allow me to have fun with it. It would also allow me something more important, abandoning an idea. Right. Sometimes an idea doesn't work. Sometimes you get really excited about it and then you bring it out to the world and the world is like, no, I don't really want that. And it's very important to either abandon or pivot or, just change it. And I think when people start a business specifically, they're saying, I'm going to do exactly this and only that, where I say, I'm going to do an experiment. And that means I can change it until it hits some traction and then create a business out of that. I think that's what was very helpful to do over the years. And also just trying stuff out, just experiments, being very curious about stuff and not caring too much what other people thought about it. I guess that was an innate thing I had that looking back on, I did not really care that people thought like, what's he doing? It just didn't enter my mind. It didn't matter. I also know that, when you go out in a crowd, you sometimes people feel, oh man, like self-conscious, like people are looking at them. Well, everyone feels the same way. No one's looking at you. Or when you see yourself in a picture of 20 people and you go, oh my God, everyone's going to notice I have a pimple. It's like the ego on you to think that people are even looking at you is hilarious. And so I always thought like, no one cares about this. So I'm going to try whatever and let it go. But yeah, I think trying experiments and just being unabashed about it was nice.
I really like that. And it makes so much sense. I thought you would say like writing code or SEO or copywriting, but your answer was even better.
Well, you can try experiments in all of those. That's the thing. It's like the underlying thing is experimentation. Right. And I have experimented with code. And what I realized was I really think that there is like an IQ barrier for some people, or just how much effort you're going to put into it. And you realize I was a computer science student for a year and got weeded out. And I was like, wow, there are people that dedicate their lives to this. This is a lifestyle. This is not a skill that you could just pick up. And so I realized, I could write code. I could probably do this, but it's better when someone else does it and I just pay them to do it. So it's experimentation of like, I did try that, but I realized, you know what? There's people that are just far better than me. They're going to outbeat me in this every time.
Right. The interesting thing about the path for a therapist is that it's very prescribed, right? We have to go to school, get a graduate degree, work for 3,000 hours to get licensed. And then if we open a private practice, it's this very long, protracted thing that doesn't lend itself to experimentation. However, I think a lot of people who have gotten licensed and started a private practice are now wanting to experiment with like, maybe I want to start a membership site or an online course or write a book. So I think maybe that's an area where we can all, as therapists, experiment and try things without, like you were saying, being too attached to it and not worrying too much about how it reflects on us, I guess. Right?
Yes. And so what happens is the math works against you as a therapist when you're working one-on-one with someone. So the max someone pays you, let's say $200 an hour. I don't know exactly, but let's say it's $200 an hour. So that's about the max you can make, and you have to fill up your hours in the day. There's only so much you can work before you get burnt out, et cetera. And with the internet, it's allowed us to amplify our voice. So when someone watches this or hears this, me and you are not actually talking. Neville and Uriah have moved on to other things, yet they're still watching this moment in history. And so I think with therapy, which is obviously a big thing today, mental health is such a huge issue, that there's all sorts of therapists kind of online that have amplified their voice. So they're helping thousands, millions of patients rather than one at a time. And I think it's a very interesting time for therapists, especially since there's licensure. So licensure is interesting because only you with the license can provide this service. So it's like why doctors get paid so much, because only them can provide this service. And so there is something interesting there. And I think a lot of therapists can potentially use the internet to a huge, huge leverage multiplier for them.
Definitely. There's some therapists blowing up on TikTok, which is pretty amazing, and like spreading the word and using even humor and fun to like talk about mental health, which I think is amazing.
So I also think like there's also the people who are traditionally therapists, but also think about someone like, Joe Rogan, someone like that, who's just a podcast, who's not a licensed anything, but at the same time, he talks about this stuff. And I think people get a lot of benefit. Some people get a lot of benefit from hearing people like that talk. And so I think there's different forms of therapy rather than just like only therapist.
Yeah, for sure. I honestly don't care where the message comes from. We all need to hear certain things about how to be the best versions of ourselves and have good mental well-being, for sure. So I have another question about your career, if you don't mind. One thing that struck me was that, and this kind of is a natural segue from what you were talking about with experimentation and not being too self-interested, I guess, is that you seem to have used fun as a guide for your decision-making and all these experiments. Like is that just how you are kind of like wired, or
who doesn't want to have fun, right? Like, would you rather do the thing that's fun?
100%.
And so I actually made a video a long time called "How the F Do I Make Money?" Because
I watched it the other day. Yes.
Yeah, this is a common question, like especially family friends back in Houston like uncles and aunties would say like, what do you do? Like, you don't have a job. Like, how do you, like, we know you pay for things. Like, what do you do? And I told them about this. And one of the things I made a little formula in college when I was about to graduate. My parents really wanted me to get a job to start off. And I thought, well, I've already got a couple small businesses making about how much money I could make in the marketplace at the time. And I said, with these businesses, there is a downside. Of course, it could go to zero, but there is upside that could potentially be unlimited. And with the job, it is capped, right? So there's stability, security, but you are capped at that. And there still is risk in having a job. They could pull the plug. You don't have a job anymore, right? It's not like there's no risk or downsides to it. And so for that reason, I thought, well, if I'm making this amount of money, the same amount of money I can with the job, but I'm having more fun and learning more this way, why don't I just do this? And I always thought it was far more fun than a job just because there was less structure. And I don't really like too much structure generally, especially when I was younger. And so that was the guiding principle. Like, how can I have fun doing what I want, feel like I'm playing around all day, yet earn a living? And if that was the case, if I was able to pull that off, have a bunch of fun, play around, like today I play around on Twitter all day, and somehow this earns me a living in the end. To me, that's like the ultimate goal of like, what would I be doing if I had $10 trillion, never had to worry about money?
Right.
If I went post-economic, what would I do? And it would probably be exactly this. And if I get to do exactly this while, having fun and making money, that's the best way. So I think also, if you're having fun, isn't that like a huge competitive advantage to someone who's not having fun, right? The person having fun at what they're doing, who would do it for free, is going to outlast the person that's just doing it for money. So similar with blogging and creating content in the early 2000s and even before that, when it was, literally HTML typing out posts, there's no blogging software. I was doing that for free, for fun, with no intent on making money, because no one made money on the internet back then. It was not a thing. And so that's why I've outlasted a lot of other people that just started a blog to make money. So fun is a huge competitive advantage. If you can make your job fun, it doesn't feel like a job.
Yeah, I love that. And in that video you referenced, you talked about like, if you wouldn't do the thing without the money, take away the money. And if you wouldn't do that thing because you enjoy it, then what are you doing? Right.
Exactly. There's all these studies that like money's not the most important thing in a job. It's like, I get what you're saying, but I guarantee if you don't pay people, they're not going to show up to work at McDonald's the next day.
Right.
Right. You might get some few people, but like for the most part, most people will not do their jobs without getting paid money.
Yeah. And if you can match those things. No, same. Yeah. Same here. That's good. Yeah. That's a good measurement of success, more so than other things, I think.
Yeah, Earl Nightingale had an interesting way of defining success. It's like the person who's successful is the person who's working towards a worthy goal, what they assume is worthy. So whether it's being a good mother or whether it's being a billionaire, whatever you think is a good goal, if you're working towards that, well, that's success, right?
I like that. So let me share with you one of the challenges that we have as therapists in private practice. We start out, it's a solo operation almost entirely. So we're doing our QuickBooks, we're doing our marketing, we're doing our networking, we're doing our website, all the things. And I mean, that's common for solopreneurs of any kind, right? And we certainly don't have a marketing background, with the exception of some people who are second career. So I think the question I want to ask you, and hopefully this is a good one, is how can we as therapists in private practice decide what should I go teach myself or learn from someone versus outsourcing to somebody else that does it better? Like, how would you advise somebody on that?
Well, I would at first work backwards. What goal do you want from this, right? So give me an example that some therapists would say. What goal would they want from this marketing activity?
Well, I really need more referrals, and my friends are all doing Google AdWords. So I bought this course to teach me how to do Google AdWords, but it's really hard and I don't like it. I don't know if that's a good example, but that's a
great example. So Google AdWords to get more referrals. Absolutely. Yeah. So more referrals. So what I would say, how do I get more referrals? And then I would work backwards to that. So I often do, there's a little framework. It's like what works, what doesn't. So in the past, what's worked to get referrals? Right. So write those out, and what has not worked, scratch those out. Let's not do those anymore. And so one, being Indian, half my friends are doctors, right? So I'm very well with the whole referral network and how that works. And I've also had a lot of clients in the medical industry that do high-end referrals to surgeons and stuff, where the average order value is 5,000 plus, right? And so the way that you get referrals is generally from these longer-term relationships. And the way you form longer-term relationships is by being friends with people, hosting events, et cetera. And so this one client I had, he was a chiropractor, and the way that he was getting referrals was knowing MDs, right? And so what he started doing was hosting like kind of these medical meetups, and naturally meeting these people over time, they started to trust him, started to refer him. It's not something you could really outsource that easy, a personal referral. To give you an example, I want more retweets and people to engage with my Twitter content. So I'm literally tomorrow having a Twitter party where I invited all these people in Austin that are on Twitter to my house. I don't know who I'm going to meet there. I don't know how it's going to go, but overall, I'm making these connections slowly. So I would say, work backwards to find what you want. So when people say like, I want more clients, it's like, well, okay, let's niche that down a little bit. You want more referrals. How can you do that? Can you host a therapist meetup? Can you host a therapist meetup for your area? Can you be that person that everyone refers to? And so imagine if you did that, and the first time you have 10 people show up, and the next time you have 20 people, let's say you cap it around there. And then you start meeting all these people. Other therapists refer other therapists all the time.
Right.
Because they're just like, well, I'm not the exact person for you. I deal more with XYZ area, but you can go to Neville for this. And so I would start like that. And I don't think you necessarily have to do Google AdWords and stuff all the time. I think researching in those places would be very important. So for example, I think Google local SEO, just having a local listing in your area as a therapist is very powerful. And you know what? I'd say more than 50% of therapists don't even have that.
True. Yeah.
And if they have it, they just have a phone number on there and a website or something. It's like, they don't have pictures of their practice. They don't have examples. They don't have testimonials. They have nothing. They put zero into that listing, but that listing can actually get you to the top of the search results right away versus building a website and doing SEO.
Yeah, no, it's true. As we're talking right now, my Google local listing ranks much higher above my organic SEO because it just does. And it's got keywords in the title and everything. And that's getting me more business right now. I like your suggestion there to work backwards. And then also I hear you saying kind of consider taking things offline, or with your Twitter party, you're like doing something that's an online activity, but you're saying, hey, let's do it here. And let's meet each other in my house, which is really cool. And we're focusing a lot more on local networking because I think it is so powerful and it's been underused. Well, for me, I can speak for myself. I've been heavy on the digital marketing, and but taking it local and in person now is more possible.
Let me give you a quick story about a real estate agent that I worked with, and she had spent a tremendous amount of money trying to become one of the top real estate agents in her area. I won't say the name of the city, but it's like a medium-sized city. Previously, she was the number 2 real estate agent in the whole city. And I said, well, and then she had dropped down in the rankings the last 2 years because of what she was trying to do was dominate the online space. This woman didn't know anything about SEO, websites, how to build anything. She was at a natural disadvantage in the digital world. And I said, well, how are you number 2? And I swear this is what she said. She's like, every Tuesday and every Thursday, I would just go knock on a bunch of doors in a neighborhood and say, hey, you want to sell your home? You want me to buy you a home? Whatever. And she just had a way with words. She was good in person. From that, she became the number 2 real estate agent. Then she got it in her head, and from watching YouTube videos, that she has to go online. And I'm like, you're competing against Redfin. You're competing against Zillow. You're competing against people like me who know the internet. You don't. You're at a total disadvantage, but you were the number 2. You accomplished your goal by just knocking on doors. Why don't you do that again? And the other thing she did was, those signs that say, we'll buy your house. She had a network of people putting those up at intersections and accepting the calls. Those 2 things made her the number 2 real estate agent. And I was like, you should just do that again.
Yeah, do more of that.
Don't ask me to do more internet stuff. I'm telling you to quit it all and go do the old school stuff. That's how you were making all the money. And so don't knock this. Like everyone thinks like you need to leverage it. But in fact, you often need to go back to the basics, which I think is more important. I've seen it happen so many times. People they buy too many courses, they buy too many digital products that they think is going to be this magic button. When in fact, like, have you knocked on 10 doors today? That's it.
That's a good reminder. And I think the issue I was trying to get at with that question too was, I think as therapists, we're very influenced by, we're humans, right? We're influenced by people who say, well, you got to be on social media, or you got to do Google AdWords, or you got to do SEO. But what you're saying is that you got to find what works, whether it's online or off, and maximize the thing that actually brings the results.
Because some people are really good at social media and some people are not. Not everyone's good at social media. Not everyone likes social media. And so if it's going to be a trudgery for you to compete and you're just going to do a half-assed job compared to the people online that are doing, quite frankly, a damn good job, are you really going to win in this arena too much?
Yeah.
So there are some people that are really good at hosting parties, that throwing events and stuff like that those people that are doing social media, oftentimes they're not good at that because they're at home recording themselves by themselves, right? It's a different skill set. And so I'd say you have to play to what's good at your skill set.
Play to your strengths and also what you truly just enjoy.
Yes. So look at what your natural rhythm is. So for example, I spend a lot of time on Twitter. I decided I don't spend a lot of time on TikTok. I don't particularly like Instagram stuff. And so I'm just going to focus on that.
Yeah. Perfect.
And just leave the rest. Like you don't necessarily, you don't have to cater to every social platform.
Right.
You do a half-assed job on all of them.
That's good.
Yeah.
Let me take just a quick pause and tell you a bit about our sponsor. This episode has been sponsored by Simple Practice, the leading practice management platform for private practitioners everywhere. More than 75,000 professionals use Simple Practice to power telehealth sessions, schedule appointments, file insurance claims, communicate with clients, and so much more. It truly is an all-in-one HIPAA-compliant platform. Get your first 2 months of Simple Practice for the price of one when you sign up for an account today. This exclusive offer is valid for new customers only, and you can go to simplepractice.com/productive therapist to learn more. Switching gears a little bit to copywriting, if that's okay. So for anybody listening who has heard that term but doesn't really know what it is, you have a very clear definition. Hopefully I get this right. You say that copywriting is rearranging words to sell better or sell more. Is that right?
I'd say so. There's a ton of ways. There's another definition I use frequently, which is trying to get information from my brain into your brain or my brain into a million brains. Using whichever medium that is, text, video, images, it doesn't matter.
Good. So I'm sort of obsessed with copywriting. I'm a student in your copywriting course, and I'm fascinated with words, and I love learning about it. Not everybody does. Not everyone is a writer, but I've seen the difference between a therapist website that is unfocused and unclear and ineffective versus one that tells a clear story, has compelling copy, and really gets people to make a decision and take an action, right? I remember years ago when I was a solo practice and I decided to redesign my website, and I hired a copywriter who used to be a therapist, and she helped me craft a homepage that really told my story as the therapist who is now helping the teenagers. And I'm the person that wished I had myself when I was 16. I didn't say that very clearly, but there's a story of challenges that I went through as a teenager that led to me being a helping professional. And then now I help other families. So she helped me craft that story. And that one page of copy that I paid her $600 for converted so many people that were excited to work with me because they said, oh, this therapist gets what we're going through, what my son is going through, right? So I know the power of good website copy. What therapists tend to do is they talk too much about themselves and they use too many big words. So I'm sure you work with other professions that might have similar traps like that.
Oh yeah, all of them.
Yeah, is that right? I guess we all have lingo.
Oh yeah,
we all have lingo.
Big words. They think it makes you look smart. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't want to ask you what are your top tips for copywriting, but I guess how can we craft our homepages so that people will take an action, which is usually reach out, phone call, or fill out a web form? How can we guide people to that action?
Once again, I like viewing it backwards. What are you trying to get people to do? So a lot of times when people come to me for a website, what they tell me is like, Neville, I want people to click the buy button. I want them to sign up to our email list. I want them to order this specific product. I'm like, whoa. I mean, that's a lot of stuff. Like you get one. Okay. So what do you want? What are you going to make the most from? So I would say for therapists, it's either filling out some sort of form or maybe calling them.
Right.
Is that correct? Usually, is that what they want?
Yes.
Okay. So for a lot of medical professions, dentists, doctors, the phone still works quite well. It's still one of the few professions where people are picking up the phone all the time. And so if you want people to call you, well, I would say work backwards. What is important if you want people to call you? Perhaps a phone number at the top. That's easy to click. And if they pull it up on their mobile phone, it's a phone number in the right format so that they can click the call and call right now. It probably should say maybe your hours when you're going to pick up, those types of things. So that's first and foremost. The next thing is, I'd say not having too much information on the page. Sometimes people make very, very long pages. Think about the process that someone's ending up at your webpage. Like, how is someone going to arrive at UriahGuilford.com? I know that's not your website, but how are they going to get there? They're probably going to get there from a referral or seeing a link somewhere where they're interested in therapy already. And so what for therapists really gets people through the door? You mentioned the teenager thing, that let's say you had a troubled youth and you want teenagers and their parents specifically to send their teenagers to you because you had a similar upbringing and it's something you can kind of relate to them on. Is that what brings people into therapist's office? Like the relation like that?
Sometimes it is, not always, but often it is a specialty of, I have this problem, eating disorder, for example. I found a therapist that says they work with eating disorders. Boom. Okay. Already.
There you go. So
interested.
it might be interesting to talk about the eating disorder thing. Maybe even say, I had one, now I don't. Those types of things. So you mentioned that people don't care about that. People talk about themselves too much. So I say people don't care about you. They care about themselves. Now, they care about you in the sense that they care about themselves. Let me demonstrate. I don't really care about Warren Buffett as a person all that much, but I know that he's really, really rich and the richest. So therefore, he probably knows something about money. So I do care about him to know about his story to see how he can help me. So I think, well, who do I want to trust with my money advice, which is very important. Well, why don't I go to the top guy in the world and it's him? Right. So I care about him in the sense that I care about myself. So you can talk about yourself in your copy, but remember what they're trying to do is relate to you to see if you're the right person. Right. So if you grew up in Zimbabwe and were the son of a dignitary and grew up a really rich life, me growing up in the United States, not in that environment, it's a bit of a stretch to think that we would really get along. Whereas if you had this troubled youth, and I'm sending my teenager out of troubled youth, I could see that, like, okay, Uriah's the guy because he's going to relate to this. He has a specialty in this. He has a degree in this, and he had a similar upbringing where he can talk about similar things. He can understand without judgment.
The potential clients care about us as the guide for them to reach their goals, not just us as an interesting person who has, whatever.
Absolutely.
Past. Yeah.
And then there's other little copywriting tricks and tips and stuff you can use, such as social proof. So for example, did you ever win an award? Do you have a diploma from a prestigious university? Do you have all those types of things? Have you helped 1,500 patients in the last 3 years? Have you been featured on Forbes for an article as a therapist? All of those things are social proof that you should put in your webpage, at least logos or little blurbs, bullets, etc., to show that, hey, I'm the real deal. I didn't just start yesterday and don't know what I'm doing. I do have some experience with this. Have you worked with celebrities? Have you worked in a prestigious company? Did you do work for Google? Those types of things are important pieces of social proof to put there. And oftentimes that stuff alone can really just get people in the door.
Definitely. Credibility matters. There's so many choices for any service that people are looking for, certainly for therapists. So that makes sense.
Well, like if you think about for your personal trainer, let's say you're trying to get really big muscles. What are you going to look for in a personal trainer? Probably someone with really big muscles.
Not somebody that looks like me.
Exactly. Like, no offense. I'm sure you probably know what to do, but you haven't done it. So therefore, are you really the best? Whereas the guy who's got big old muscles, I'm like, well, he has big muscles. So that's kind of what I'm going for. Yeah. So similarly, for a therapist, you can't exactly peer inside someone's brain without saying it out loud, right? So whether your therapist is skinny or full of muscles doesn't particularly matter.
Right.
So we have to tell people what we've done in the past.
Yeah, for us, social proof is a little bit harder because we can't, at least in the United States, we can't do testimonials. Like in Canada, they have different laws, but we can't say, we can't solicit testimonials. Yeah, at all.
My friend, there are a lot of different ways that you can show social proof without revealing customer information. So for example, let's say you can't say Google. You could say, I've worked with Fortune 500 companies. Did I violate any law? You can't use my testimonial, but you can say, I've worked with people that are prominent in the tech industry. Okay. You can't give actual names, but you can say, I've worked with 400 people in Austin.
Right. You can make reference to.
Exactly. I've been doing this for X amount of years. I went to this university and trained with 3 different top Nobel laureate professors. I'm making things up over here, but you can see that there's many ways to get around this, right? So people always say, well, I can't get testimonials. It's common in the medical industry, but there's many different ways to show what you've done and how you can help.
No, that's helpful. That's good. With any limitation, there's always some sort of workaround, right?
There's always a workaround in it. There's always a way to just like tweak the language just a bit to where you can say the same thing without saying it.
Yeah. I have one or two more questions for you before we wrap up, but just curious if people are listening to this and they're super interested to learn more from you, because there's so many things that I would love to talk to you about, but we don't have the time. Where could people go? Do you think going and checking out your YouTube videos is a good place to start, or copywritingcourse.com? What do you recommend?
Copywritingcourse.com. I would suggest signing up for our email. We send out this great Friday email that has a lot of little copywriting tips. And then we also, we send out all our best copywriting content. So even if you don't buy anything ever, I think that alone would be worth it. Also, youtube.com/copywriting, spelled with a K. And then also Twitter @NevMed, if you want to follow me there. But for the most part, if you go to our copywriting blog, we have tons of free resources on there. So a lot of articles, a lot of our videos, I have a podcast, all that kind of stuff. It's all good stuff. So even if you never buy anything, it's there. Also, you can join our copywriting course and just show us your webpage and we'll give you feedback. In fact, every Thursday on office hours, that's all I do. People say, what about my webpage? And we literally live update it over screen share right there. Yeah.
I'm going to show up on office hours soon.
That's probably the best way. Yeah.
I'm going to do that soon because that's super valuable. I do have a selfish question for you. If you wouldn't mind just looking at the headline on my new website, we just actually rebranded to a new name.
Productive Therapist?
So no, I'm for my counseling group, actually. It's intunefamily.com. So our new name is Intune Family Counseling. And I'm just curious what you think about this headline. And I'll just tell the audience.
Families find their rhythm.
Yeah, we help families.
And then it has a picture of a guy playing guitar in the background. Okay, rhythm, got it.
Is it too clever or not?
My first impression that's too clever, and so I'll explain to the audience that there's a difference between clever and clear. Right. So when you say find their rhythm, I think it's cute. I think it's fine. I don't think it's like going to kill the conversion or anything, because it really depends on where the traffic is coming from.
Sure.
If this was someone's personal referral and they see this, they're still going to sign up. However, when you say find their rhythm, what do you mean?
Yeah, I know it's risky to ask you this question on this podcast, but
I think that's learning.
The idea with Intune Family Counseling is that it's obviously a music metaphor that's throughout the website, but to find sort of attunement or sync with relationships. So that's really what it's about. But I think it's a little obscure. I mean, people could understand it sort of intuitively, but it's not clear. Like, okay, well, how are you going to help my family? Are we going to do music lessons together? Are we going to do a drum circle? Or are we going to do therapy? What is this? Right.
Exactly. I think if you roll with it, like, here's the thing. I like clever stuff and have done it a million times. The problem is people come to the website just totally fresh and they're like, what is this about guitars? Like, what are we talking about?
Pass the grunt test, right?
Exactly. And they view it on different devices. Like whenever I view it on mobile, I see a guitar and it says rhythm and I'm like, this is a counseling website? Like, what are we talking about?
Right.
Yeah. And so I think what you might want to say is, like, for example, we help families find harmony, right? And then like a picture of a family all holding hands, something like that. It's just like, okay, they're all holding hands, harmony, or civility. One of those words that means a little bit just like togetherness. We help bring families together. We end fighting in families, those types of things. How would you say it to your friend of what you do? Like, we repair family trauma.
That's a good question. And one of your frameworks is CBI, I believe. It's like competitive or benefit driven or inspirational. And I think this one should be either benefit or inspirational, because it's not like we're the number one family therapy, group in this area.
I mean, that by the way, it's a pretty good headline there.
It's not terrible.
Number one family group in XYZ. Yeah, that's pretty good.
I don't have it in front of me, but I wrote a one-liner recently that was, I thought, really good, and it paints a picture of, your kid's going to smile more. You're going to have laughter at the family dinner table, and everybody's going to want to be together. So those kind of things, family togetherness. We help families get along.
Well, you know what? You know what our job here is? I've referred to this many times through this podcast. Let's work backwards. The goal is not to impress people with our cleverness. The goal is not to impress people with our headline. The goal is to get them to click get help today, right?
100%.
And when I click get help today, there's a contact form with a scheduling app, right? So to schedule a thing. And so what I would say is almost more important is you could maybe even put this scheduling form right on the front page.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Okay.
People are coming to a family counseling website. I think they know what family counseling is. I think they know that they have a problem. They're looking for family counseling. I, Neville, am not coming to this website for fun and browsing. I'm going here to repair my family.
Sure.
And so the number one thing is that get help today, and you're making them click through, which is fine. But at the same time, I would rather have copy focused around schedule an appointment, right?
In that main headline on the top.
It could be
Okay.
the number one family counseling thing in Tampa, Florida. I'm not sure exactly if that's true, but it could say the number one family counseling in our area. Schedule an appointment today to see if we can help, and then the scheduling app right there. Would that get more people through the door? I think so.
Mm-hmm.
So what I'm trying to get you to do is finish that ultimate goal that you want, which is to get them to book an appointment.
Right.
And how can we? Everything around is just like a funnel. It's all sliding into that one action. That's what I care about. So when people start getting like, what about this headline? What about that headline? I'm like, is that what we're optimizing here for?
Right.
Because I don't think so. I think if I just got rid of your website, I said, you're not allowed to have a website, but I could get you a bunch of people signing up for that form. You'd say, okay, yeah, that's all I want. I don't really care about the website. The website's just a conduit to get people.
So the headline needs to help them get to the next step, which is scheduling a call. Okay.
And we help families find their rhythm. It just, I think it's clever. It's cute. And it's got the guy playing the guitar in the background, but I just don't think that, my brain is thinking I need to schedule an appointment right now.
Yeah. I knew that you were going to say that, and that's what I needed to hear. So thank you.
Well, but here's why you don't need to feel bad about this. I frequently have people help me with my own web page.
Oh my gosh.
And the reason is what I call it, you're in the box.
Right.
You have probably thought about this web page, got it all done, and you rewrote stuff, and you had a designer or whoever, and you're thinking about it so much that you, my friend, are in the box.
100%.
You're just trapped in this box. You can't see from the outside. I come in looking at this for the first time, and I'm like, are we talking about music here? It says music, it says rhythm, and there's a guy playing guitar. I think we're talking about music. So I personally am confused. And so I can imagine that my brain is similar to other people's brains and that they're confused too. And I didn't even know that you can schedule an appointment until I clicked get help today, which I was not compelled to click.
Right.
And so I can tell you right away what's wrong versus you who are in the box. It's always helpful to have someone outside the box.
No, that's perfect. And of course, all my therapist friends who I tell, like, the new name for my practice is In Tune Family Counseling, and we help families find their rhythm. And they're like, oh, that's so good, But I'm not talking to potential clients. I'm talking to people who, I don't know. That's the feedback I've gotten. But it makes sense that the person reading this website needs to see something different that lines up more. Yeah.
I mean, one of the things I'm just throwing ideas out your way of what could be a better hook, because you're doing it to your counselor friends and they're also thinking like, what's a clever name, right?
Yeah.
Instead, what if you're talking to a normal person who's your potential client? Because other therapists are not your potential clients.
Yeah.
They don't pay you money. Other families do. So stop asking your therapist friends what they think. To be frank, it's irrelevant. It doesn't
There's some
matter.
good advice right there.
Exactly. So instead, go to actual families and tell them we help families find their rhythm, and they'll be like, my son's acting out. Like, what is it? Like, what does this have to do with anything? Right. So instead, if you say we're the number one family therapist practice, we've helped 1,300 families find harmony in their lives, and we hope to help 2,000 more by the end of the year. Something like that. Imagine saying something like that, and they go, "Oh, that's how do you?" And then they ask you more questions.
Right.
That's what I want to hear. Right.
Yeah.
We help families find their rhythm, and they're like, "That's cool." It ended. It didn't compel them to do anything else.
Yeah, it's got to stoke some curiosity about how could that help me, or how does that apply to me? Okay.
Well, it has to be like a little bit of a. It's nice when it's like a punch in the gut statement. Not saying it has to make people sad, but it's just like, whoa, that's
right.
It kind of makes people stand back and be like, you help 1,300 families. What do you even do? How do you do that?
Yeah.
Right. Like what's the process? So now I'm curious. Now you've got them talking. And once you've got them talking like that, it's likely you can end in a sale.
Just a side note, I think it's hard for a lot of therapists to use those competitive focused sort of headlines because we tend to not think of ourselves as competitive. But I suppose if you're establishing credibility and it's actually true, it could be very powerful. And especially if
it's not bragging, if it's true,
it's not bragging if it's true. And if people go to 10 websites and they're all kind of meh, and then yours is like, this is the place you need to come if this is what you need.
Also, competition is where I say Neville's therapy practice is better than Uriah's. Don't go to Uriah's, go to Neville's. That is hostile and competitive. Right. I'm just saying we've helped 1,300 families. We hope to help yours.
Sure.
This has nothing to do with you or anyone else. It's just like, this is what we've done. And
owning that we're really good at this. Yeah.
Yeah. In my mind, that's not competitive at all. It's just telling people what you've done.
I like it. This is good. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I mean, seriously, I have like 47 more questions for you, but I'm just going to tell people who listen, who are intrigued by this conversation, to go and check out copywritingcourse.com. And Neville, your videos on YouTube are hilarious and educational. So I think everybody should go check that out today.
Great. Thank you.
And I'm going to show up on office hours soon and bring you my whole webpage.
Yeah, I mean, so literally this kind of is like an office hours, what we just did here. Someone says we're talking about the headlines. It turns out maybe this doesn't matter as much. Are we just trying to get people to click that yellow button? What if we just take the form and put it on the page, right?
Yeah.
And a couple of things like, for example, I geek out on this stuff. I noticed you have a get in touch phone number, but it's not at the top. It's at the bottom. It looks like to me, you're not optimizing for people to call or text you.
Right.
Another interesting thing, a lot of people text nowadays rather than call. In fact, I always was against it. I was like, I'd rather call, but then sometimes at 3 a.m, I'm for some reason looking at a website. I'd rather just text them. And so one interesting thing we found recently, instead of saying call 713, et cetera, you could say call/text this number.
Yeah. I think that's a great tip.
So small little changes like that, oftentimes you'll get 3 times more inquiries just by adding that one little thing.
All right. I got my homework now.
This is exactly what we do in office hours. I'm happy to do it for yours.
Perfect.
So if you want to join Copywriting course, we have super cheap plans and you can come to office hours as many times as you want. Yeah.
I highly recommend it. Thank you, Neville, for everything you do and for being on the podcast. And I super appreciate it. All right. Take care.
Thank you, Ryan.
Bye.